The film begins with a dense forest and a blue river. Then, by the riverbank, we see a human corpse being carried by the river's current. It appears to be a young woman. There are two hunters aiming to shoot a deer, but their action is thwarted by Rayburn. Rayburn is the forest ranger. This forest is a wildlife sanctuary controlled and protected by Rayburn. He confiscates the weapons of the two hunters. When he tries to head home, his car breaks down due to a dead battery. He asks the two hunters for help, but they refuse. Rayburn ends up walking home. At home, Rayburn is seen talking to himself. It's clear that Rayburn lives alone in the house, accompanied only by his beloved dog. We shift to a woman named Alice, a police officer in town. She meets Carl, a police officer who is safeguarding her brother named Brooks. It is known that Brooks has committed a crime, but it is not specified what crime. On the way, Alice asks about the trouble Brooks caused, but Brooks refuses to tell Alice. Here, Brooks's behavior irritates Alice. Suddenly, Alice receives a police call about a murder at Buck Lake. Buck Lake is the name of a forest, which is a wildlife sanctuary managed by Rayburn. Back at Rayburn's home in the forest, we see Rayburn printing a poster of a young woman. We learn that Rayburn is someone who enjoys drinking alcohol. While drinking, Rayburn is visited by a group of school kids. Rayburn explains a few things about the forest and traps commonly used by hunters. One kid remarks that Rayburn is a bad person who enjoys hunting. Rayburn clarifies that this was his past, and that he stopped because his daughter did not like what he did. The scene shifts to the discovery of a woman's corpse in the forest. There are visible wounds on the throat of the corpse. They also find an arrow embedded in a tree. We return to Rayburn. He is seen posting a missing persons flyer that he printed earlier. The name on the flyer is Gwen Swanson. Gwen Swanson is Rayburn's daughter who has been missing for 5 years. Rayburn then meets with a woman who is with Carl named Debbie. Debbie is Rayburn's ex-wife and they are divorced. Debbie is now married to Carl. Debbie's purpose here is to make an official announcement regarding Gwen, their daughter who has been missing for 5 years. It is clear that Rayburn is still in denial about his daughter's death and is unable to accept it. The scene then moves to the examination of the arrow found. The arrow has an MB logo on it. Next, the scene shifts to Rayburn sleeping. Suddenly, there is a news report about the death of a young girl found in Buck Lake Forest. Seeing the news, Rayburn rushes to the police station. Meanwhile, Alice is talking to Brooks. When Rayburn arrives, Rayburn meets Alice. They discuss the murdered girl, and Rayburn wants to confirm if she is his missing daughter. It turns out that she is not his daughter. Afterward, Alice consults Boone about Gwen's case. Boone is a surgical specialist. Then Alice joins Rayburn and they have a conversation while getting to know each other better. The next morning, as Rayburn is about to sign Gwen's letter, his dog suddenly starts barking. It turns out there is someone wearing a ghillie suit who is destroying the CCTV cameras. Rayburn rushes to the location with his rifle. A confrontation occurs and Rayburn is forced to flee after being shot in the chest. When he gets to his car, he tries to start it but fails because the battery is dead. Rayburn decides to walk instead. While walking, he notices a car parked in the forest and marks the car with an X. Back at home, Rayburn tends to his wounds and then returns to check the CCTV. He is shocked to see a girl being chased by a man in a ghillie suit. Rayburn quickly prepares his equipment and heads to the scene. Upon arriving in the forest, Rayburn encounters another shootout. He throws a paint can up and shoots at it, hoping to mark the man in the ghillie suit. Several shots are fired, but Rayburn fails to identify the person. The scene shifts to an archery shop. Here, Alice inquires about the arrow she found. It is revealed that the arrow was used for hunting about 3,000 years ago and was called an atlatl by prehistoric people. We return to Rayburn at the riverbank in the forest. He sees a young woman passed out by the river and attempts to help her. They both enter a pit that Rayburn once used to trap animals when he was still hunting. They hide there from the man in the ghillie suit. When questioned, the woman cannot speak, as if mute. But strangely, she is not deaf. The young woman's name is Molly. The next morning, Rayburn takes Molly to his home to keep her safe from the man in the ghillie suit. Upon arriving, he hears his dog barking as if it's locked in a room. Rayburn checks and encounters the man in the ghillie suit again. Rayburn loses the fight. and Molly tries to shoot him but misses. However, she is stabbed in the stomach. After returning home, Alice finds Molly unconscious, and Rayburn explains that he is not responsible for the attack, but rather a human hunter. Suddenly, the hunter appears behind Alice. When Alice tries to capture him, she notices that the hunter's hand resembles her brother's hand. She mistakenly believes it is Brooks and shoots Rayburn, but Rayburn escapes and arrives at his ex-wife's home, explaining that Alice shot him because she wanted to save Brooks. Dr. Boone arrives to treat Rayburn's wounds. Carl, who sees Brooks, tries to catch him, but Brooks attempts to escape from Carl's pursuit. Then Brooks enters the operating room to threaten the surgeon, but his attempt is thwarted by Rayburn. Alice comes to see her brother but is not allowed in. They head to a cabin from the beginning of the film to investigate Brooks's actions. At the cabin, they find a man who is being held captive by Brooks, and the man is badly beaten. It turns out that the man in the ghillie suit is not Brooks. After recovering, Rayburn is driven home by his wife. It is revealed that the cause of Rayburn losing his daughter was his heavy drinking habit. Every time he bought alcohol, his daughter Gwen would become very upset because she hated seeing her father drinking continuously. After returning to his car, Rayburn realizes that his daughter is missing. The scene shifts to Alice visiting Molly, where she notices a slash wound on Molly's throat, similar to the wound on the woman found at the beginning of the film. Back to Rayburn. Feeling guilty, he decides to quit drinking alcohol and pay off his debts. At the bar where he usually buys alcohol, he spots a car similar to the one seen in the forest. Rayburn follows the car, and when he checks, he finds the same X mark he made earlier. He continues to follow the car until an old man gets out. Rayburn is confused because it is impossible for him to be the culprit. Then the old man explains that someone frequently borrows his car and that the person's house is located on a hill in the forest. Rayburn immediately heads to that house. At the house, Rayburn finds a list of people killed by the hunter, along with a young woman still undergoing surgery. It is revealed that every woman hunted has a throat wound, done to prevent them from screaming for help in the forest. The women are prepared by having their vocal cords cut at the house before being released into the forest to be killed. Suddenly, a man arrives and injects Rayburn with a syringe, and he passes out. Back to Alice, who is in Dr. Boone's office seeking additional information. In his office, Alice notices Boone's daughter's necklace with the MB logo, which stands for Melissa Boone. This logo is also on the arrowhead found earlier. Alice becomes suspicious and moves towards Dr. Boone's location, where it is revealed that Dr. Boone is behind all of this. After Rayburn wakes up from unconsciousness, he immediately goes to the forest while Dr. Bond pursues him. Alice arrives at Rayburn's house and reviews the CCTV footage, seeing Boone starting to hunt Rayburn, and Alice is forced to confront Boone. In the end, Rayburn defeats Boone and drops him into a pit filled with sharp wood. Alice had asked Rayburn not to kill Boone, but due to uncontrollable rage, Boone falls into the pit. The next morning, the memorial for Gwen begins. Molly attends the memorial, and the shack that caused Brooks's trauma is also demolished on Alice's orders, while Rayburn is seen taking an alcohol bottle that reminds him of his daughter. Why Bond targeted young women? The backstory is that Boone's daughter, Melissa, was kidnapped and killed in the forest. Boone sought revenge for his daughter's death by kidnapping young women and releasing them into the forest to vent his anger and pain. And the film ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.